welcome to this edition of Igniting American Manufacturing. I'm Brian Sexton, joined by our host, Rory Comiskey. Rory, let's start real quick. First of all, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm really glad to be here.
I am too.
We've got a great show, I think, this morning.
A couple of headlines for you first, though. Before we begin, Microsoft this week announced a $3.3 billion investment to build an AI-centric mega data center. What's that mean for the industry?
Well, the need is urgent, and as far as AI go, AI is exacerbating an already overtaxed global data sphere. It's going to create a lot of jobs.
Great.
Some great jobs. During construction, we're looking at like 2,300 jobs. When they first initially open their doors, it'll be 460 people permanent there, and that's going to grow in the next few years up to slightly over 2,000. And then there's some other great stuff going on with that as well. They're opening up a lab with the university. Green Bay Packers actually have a piece of it. They're opening an AI co-innovation lab, and they're doing that in conjunction with the University of Wisconsin. And they expect to have 60 other manufacturers come in and work with that. So this is going to grow.
Yeah.
It's the start of a tech hub, and this piece of property actually had another vendor in there, and they kind of faltered a little bit, Foxconn. And so now they're taking up their space and rekindle some hope up there. So a lot of good things going on. They're also working with Gateway Community College, and they plan on running about 10,000 people through that program in the next few years to upskill and work in data centers. And they're going to be teaching from engineering and the IT and working on PLCs. So a lot of really good stuff. You've got some government money there. You've got academia involved, and you got an owner that's actually involved, and they're all engaged and working together. So good stuff, great stuff.
And speaking of government money, the United States invests $285 million in some digital twin semiconductor research and work. That's your area of expertise. What does this mean?
So they're doing that, and they're with Amazon, and yeah, right, about $11 billion. So the digital twin, literally, and Professor Schroeder is going to talk a little bit about that in VDC when we get into talking with our guests. Digital twin literally is building something in it virtually before you actually do it, and then, as far as operations for manufacturing or data centers, you can run it through its paces and find your problems early on. So it's real involved. It involves, BIM and CAD drawing. It's comprehensive, and our guests really can elaborate on that today.
Well, let's get right to it then and introduce you to Professor Kirk Schroeder from BYU. He's got 22 years in high-tech manufacturing spaces, semi-EV and wastewater in particular, working for high-profile clients like IBM, Intel, and Tesla, to name just a few. He's into project management and project controls, VDC and scheduling, which is the program that he operates at BYU. It's first of its kind and only in the United States. Welcome, Professor Schroeder.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
BYU is the only program. You are on the cutting edge. Tell us about the genesis of the program that you're involved with out there out west.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this program started about 6 to 7 years ago. The department chair, which I've known for well over 20 years, he's a very forward-thinking person. His name's Mike Sessions, and he went out and he said the industry's changing in construction. We had a construction management department with an architectural focus, and he said the industry's changing, so we have to find out what direction it's changing. And so he went out and did a sabbatical, met with a lot of companies, and found out that VDC is one of the biggest pushes in the industry right now. And so the university, we have the ability, we're up in Idaho, the Idaho branch of Brigham Young University. And he said, let's start this other program called VDC. And they gave him, the reins and the funding to do that. And then they started organizing it. And then they went out and started hiring people that had industry experience, because we're very industry focused. We're an academic, entity, but we like to focus more on industry and providing students the experience so they can go right into the field and impact companies and their communities. So we began this, and I came on about 4 years ago. I was working as a BIM manager, which is building information modeling. It's a part of some people use VDC and BIM synonymously, but they're a little bit different. And so, I came up here and started with some other faculty developing the program further. And VDC, it's virtual design and construction, and we get into the details of creating models, like Rory mentioned, the digital twin, and because you have to create things. We found that if you can create things virtually and test things out and do spatial coordination, it eliminates rework. It creates a safer working environment. It allows people to do off-site manufacturing and be more productive in a factory setting. And so it takes a high level of coordination, but and so we get into the design aspects, the coordination, the management side of things, because there's a whole nother avenue of careers in the VDC world, and companies are coming to BYU Idaho. We place 100% of our students, we usually with multiple offers, and they just and the companies just can't get enough of our students. And I'm grateful for those faculty and students that came before me, because they've paved the way for companies to want to be here. And then we're just taking the baton and trying to add more value to the industry. So that's kind of the beginnings of our department and this 4-year degree, which, like you said, it's the only 4-year VDC degree. There is another university I'll give credit where credit's due. Georgia Highlands University or College has a BIM, the bachelor's degree as well, which they started a couple years ago. So I think between us, we're the only two 4-year accredited degrees.
So Professor Schroeder, you said some really interesting things there. 100% placement with multiple offers. That's incredible. And I speak often about workforce development, and I also talk about urgent needs in manufacturing. This is what this show's about. Whether it's high tech, and I include data centers in that. There's a dire need for workforce development, and I speak often about how the only way we have a deficit, and when the deficit of workers is only going to grow in the next few years, particularly as people retire, that only through government helping, the manufacturers themselves doing some heavy lifting, and involving academia, and you said something, talked about one of your predecessors, someone on your team going out. I think what's really essential, and if you could talk to this a little bit more, is understanding what the needs are for manufacturing and tailoring your programs to it. It sounds like that's what you've done. And I know you have your VDC program. I know you have some scheduling stuff. If you can elaborate a little bit more about that. And I'm going to tell you, I was up at your school at an event, and I'm going to quote one of your students. And he wasn't talking to me. He was walking by me, and he was talking to someone. And it was at a career fair, and he actually said, he says, "I'm not all worried about my degree. I want to leave here with job skills." I was so impressed by that statement. At the end of the day, when you leave a university, you want to have real job skills. So I was very impressed by that statement. It set a tone for me when I was up there. I kind of got the feel, it's a traditional 4-year college, but it had a real vocational feel to it, and that's what I got. Am I wrong in saying that? Talk a little bit about your construction program a little bit more.
No, you're right, Rory. We, like I said before, is all the faculty in our department, they all come with industry background. And many with 20 plus years of experience. We have architects, people that ran truss plants, people that ran safety programs, and were executives in construction companies. And so we come from industry, and we know what the industry demands. And so when we teach our classes and we build the curriculum, it's with that end in mind, is how, if we're teaching something that can't be used in industry, why teach it? It's kind of useless. We're not into theories as much. We're into how are we going to impact the industry and the community
Tangible skills, yeah.
are absolutely. And I tell my students a lot when I teach a BIM class, and it's focused mainly on MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and piping systems, and how that coordination effort happens. It's one of the most challenging coordination efforts. And I tell my students, and I try to help them understand, if you can't build it, you might as well not draw it. We're not. I love artists. You're an artist, Rory, but we're if we're drawing stuff to just look at, then we can go to an art program, which is needed. But in construction, if you can't build it, you might as well not draw it. And so we look at the constructability aspects of things and helping the tradesmen in the field. And I like to think if we're helping the trades, they're the ones that actually build the projects. And if we can make their lives easier, safer, and more productive, and create a longer career for them, then that's what we want to do for our students, and not get out there with this elitist mentality that we're here, boots on the ground, get out to the field, interact with the trades and the construction teams, and if we can, hopefully not all students grasp that, but I think most of them do at our university, and I think it's just because of the focus our professors have, and because they came from industry, and we got a lot of great students. So
You do, and I really enjoy my time out there. There's two buzzwords out there, and they're being pushed with the CHIPS Act and Inflation Reduction Act, but they're really good buzzwords: nano degrees and micro certifications. And I understand, and people define that differently, but I understand they're basically non-traditional programs. Are not a 4-year degree, but give job skills, whether it's a nano degree or micro cert, to get people out in the field. I understand the university just recently started working on a micro certification. Talk a little bit about that, or tell us where you guys are at with that.
You're right. Yeah, you're right on, Rory. We did. It was funny that you gave that. We had a talk about a month ago, and you were talking about these micro certifications, and I'm like, holy cow! I didn't know that other people were talking about it, because we had just the week before had a discussion within our department, and actually the whole university. They're looking into these micro certifications because companies are asking for that, and we're seeing that a 4-year degree sometimes isn't the way for everybody. So if we can offer these micro certifications, which can expose industry professionals and other people to certain skill sets, then that's what we want to do. And so BYU Idaho, the first one we're doing is a scheduling and micro certification, exposing people to scheduling and planning principles within construction and engineering. And then also we expose them to Primavera, which is the industry standard P6, and Microsoft Project, other scheduling tools.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Kirk, and I'm sorry for interrupting. I can tell you personally, at Fusion IRX and in the high-tech sector, what we call schedules right now are unicorns, because they're just not out there. So if you guys are working on that, that's awesome. What would you think about a micro cert and commissioning? And maybe we should get off air and talk about that. I'd love to see something along that line. But the micro certifications to me are just, whether it's a nano degree, whatever you call it, if you can get folks real job skills and get them entry level, I mean, they're going to do some on the job training and learning. But if we can get them a baseline to get them out there entry level, like I said, that's, schedulers command salary-wise, because they're just not out there. They're commanding as much as senior PMs. Someone with 3 or 4 years of scheduling on their belt is doing pretty good. So that's I applaud you. That was to start in a micro cert. That was a good one to pick. So whoever did that, kudos to them.
Yeah, that was the old department chair, the guy I worked with for many years, Mike Sessions. And so, yeah, we did the scheduling. The next one, like you mentioned, the next one would be a commissioning and a BIM certificate, because companies are coming and saying, hey, we want to expose our superintendents, our project engineers, our field engineers to the tools that BIM can offer in the field, because it's owners are demanding it. And so they need their people to know how to use those tools. And so that's a BIM micro-credential or certificate, and then commissioning is another one that I think people underestimate the demand and the need for good commissioning companies, and it kind of goes down to the point where how are we going to operate the facility, the factory? Is it operating as the owner intends and the engineer has designed it? And so it doesn't always work that way, but commissioning agents and professionals can facilitate that.
So one last question for you, Professor Schroeder. How do you go about that? What's that process like? Is that something you guys do in-house, or do you go out to the industry and ask folks about what they need commissioning-wise? Or do you get feedback from the industry itself, or is that something you do in-house? What's that process like?
Yes, on both fronts. We discuss it because we come from industry, but we also like to bounce that off of all the companies that will come up to the university and recruit, and we have partners that we talk with frequently, and so we want to make sure it's delivering the skill sets to the companies that they need, and we can do that with these micro certifications or degrees, if you will. So yeah, it's all about the industry and getting the students prepared and adding value to the construction and manufacturing industries, and so.
Professor Kirk Schroeder from BYU. We try to keep you on the cutting edge of what's going on news and educationally on igniting American manufacturing. I have the sense, Professor, that we're going to see you as a regular guest on this show in the future. Thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day in Idaho. And that'll do it for this edition of Igniting American Manufacturing. Rory, thanks so much.
Enjoyed it again.
And we've got another show coming at you next week. We'll see you then.
Fusion IRX is an iteration of firms I've worked with over the years. And I think we've taken the best pieces of the different firms I worked in and pulled it together. We're subject matter experts at the end of the day. So we work in high-tech manufacturing. We are open to looking at other things, but we kind of really stick to semiconductor, where my roots are. It's where I originally came from. The EV ecosystem, whether it's battery manufacturing, auto, recycling, mineral processing, and then finally the global data sphere, so building data centers. That's not really manufacturing, but then again, it kind of is. We're good at what we do, and we have a lot of passion about it, and we can help you.